I'll have to tell you the story about some things that happened when I was about 10 years old, which would make it about 80, 78 or 80 years ago. There was a little church called Beulah up the road, just this side of Paul McDonald's place on the county line. This little church, and right south of that and west a little ways is where my grandfather and grandmother lived. Grandmother's name was Fredonia Parrott, and my granddad was William Parrott. And they was great church people, and everybody had a lot of respect for them. They were noted all over Danville, Newell, and all the neighborhood down there as being just and honest, and people had a lot of quarrels in them days about different things, more than they do now. They'd have arguments, and they couldn't afford lawyers, so the women folks would go to my grandmother. Her name was Fredonia, and they called her Doan. And they'd go to her, and both of them would tell their story, and grandmother would decide what was right, what they should do about it. But more importantly, the men, their troubles was a little bit deeper, and they would get in a big argument, and rather than to take it to law, why, they'd say, well, I'll leave it to Uncle Bill, my grandfather, William Parrott, and let him decide, if you will, and whatever he says, we'll abide by it. So the lawyers didn't like it a bit, because one lawyer told my grandfather, he said, you've beat us out more money than anybody that we ever heard tell of. So there was a family right east of the church, about a half a mile, by the name of Ogeys. They were very, very poor people, and they had 3 or 4 boys about my age or a little older, and they was kind of ornery kids. They was kind of on the mean side. They'd destroy property, and they'd cause trouble, all in fun, but they was rather disturbing to the community. And one day when the folks went to church and opened the door one Sunday morning, stepped inside the church, they looked around, and a lot of windows had been broken out. Not only that, but it had rained, and they had made a lot of mud balls, and they threw them around all over the church, these mud balls, and just kind of wrecked the thing. So it was a terrible thing for the church to clean it up and have go on with their meeting. So they talked it over, and they say, who could have done this thing? And finally, they decided it might have been the Ogeys that done it. So they, a bunch of them went down to the Ogey place and made the boys admit it, that they had done it. Well, then they had a meeting, and what shall we do? And there's part of them wanted to have the sheriff out and arrest him and put him in jail for doing a crime like that. And some of them wanted to make him clean it up, and others that wanted to fine him a big heavy fine, and they just didn't agree. Well, they said, we'll leave it to my grandmother. So she got up in this meeting, and she says, well, she says, I think we're all wrong. I think the thing to do would be to go to them, they've admitted they done it, and tell them that it was our fault more than it was theirs, because we didn't have anything to do with them. We wasn't friendly. We wasn't good to them. We didn't try to help them. And it's our fault that they done that. And she says, I believe that some of us should go down there and tell them they're going to have to pay for this damage that was done by promising to come to church, Sunday school, and preaching regularly every Sunday for 6 months. Then that would be, it would be paid for if they would do that. So the Ogey kids was honest about it. They decided, well, that was the best way out of it. So they come to church, and she also told them that she says, we will take turns going and visiting the family and helping them and be friends with them and be good to them and love them, and we take care of that part of it. And so that is what they did, and the boys was different boys from then on, as far as I remember, and it wasn't too long till they moved away, and I never heard tell of them after that. But we made good citizens, I think, out of them.